my channel. In today's video, we are going to be talking about all of the books that I read in October. So obviously you guys are seeing this while it is still October, so I did film it a few days ahead of time. So anything that I read from now, it's just a couple of days before Halloween, anything that I read from now until the end of the month obviously won't be included in this wrap up, but I'll just include it in next month's wrap up because I wanted to get this video out for you guys. So yeah, let's just jump right on into it. So I read 13 books this month, and we are going to start off with The Unwelcome Child by Therese Pamplioni. And this one I have talked about here a bit on my channel in the past, but this is one that was on my TBR for a very long time. We're talking years and years and years and years that I've had this book. It has a very, very spooky cover. I rated this one, I gave this one a 4 out of 5. I did end up really enjoying it, but I will say it was definitely not what I expected it to be. So for this book, it's called The Unwelcome Child. It has a picture of a spooky house with a baby cradle in the front of it. What I assumed from the synopsis of this book to be was basically almost like a Damien sort of situation, that this couple moves into this old house that they are wanting to turn into a bed and breakfast, and she miraculously becomes pregnant. They have tried for years and years to get pregnant and have had no luck. But what I took this to be was that this house is haunted or something, and that this baby is like some sort of devil child that she ends up having. That is the story that I was expecting from the synopsis when I was getting into this book. That is not at all what I got whatsoever. So this book talks a lot about abortions, and there is a lot of talk about whether it's right or wrong, whether it's okay or not okay, and that is a big part of the plot. So we have a main character who has had several abortions in her past, and she is going to stay with her best friend, who she and her husband have purchased this home. They have miraculously gotten pregnant, and her best friend has become involved in this group, this anti-abortion group. So there's that. The house itself was used in the 1800s as an illegal abortion place for unwed mothers. So this is where, unwed mothers would go to, take care of their babies, and whether or not the mothers wanted to or not. I mean, in some cases, yes, the mothers were wanted to, but in a lot of cases they were forced to from their parents or whatever. There was a lot of horrific things that went on in this home, and it definitely left some eerie things behind. So there's definitely some ghostly aspect to this house. But yeah, a lot of the book is about that, and it kind of alternates in perspective. So it talks about back in those days when this house was used as an abortion clinic, I guess we'll call it. So there's information about that. And then there's things that are going on in the present day. Basically, when our main character ends up going to be with her best friend, she's going to visit for a while. Her best friend is pregnant, but she's extremely sick. Like, she just looks like Skeletor with a bump. I keep saying our main character. Our main character's name is Annie, and her best friend's name is Jan. So Annie goes to just be helping Jan for a while, and she's trying to figure out, like, Jan seems really, she and her husband are not on good terms anymore. She's getting herself involved with this anti-abortion movement going on, and she's fighting with everyone, and Annie is just trying to be there for her best friend and trying to figure out, like, what is going on. But she starts to notice that she is having some really weird experiences in the home, and it's all relating back to what this house used to be. So it is a very good book. It is just definitely not what the synopsis claimed it to be. Once I got over that fact, like about halfway through, I was annoyed because I was like, this isn't what I signed up for, whatsoever. But once I got over that fact, I was able to enjoy the story for what it was, and I did end up liking it and giving it a 4. So the next book that I listened to it on audiobook, and that is Dewey Decimated, which is in a cozy mystery series that I absolutely loved. The series is called this is book 6 in the Haunted Library Mystery series, and this series basically follows a librarian who solves crimes in her spare time, I guess we'll say. She's a librarian. There is a library ghost that helps her solve some of these crimes, and this is book 6. I absolutely love this series. I have talked about it before. I'll have a link here somewhere to the Best Cozy Mystery series. I talked about it there, and this is just book number 6 in that series. I'm not gonna, it's a librarian solving crimes. I mean, I can't give much more away than that. And of course, I gave it a 4 out of 5. So the next 2 books on my list is books in the Mortal Instruments series from Cassandra Clare, and that is City of Ashes and City of Glass. So this is book 2 and book 3 in the Mortal Instruments series. So this is a series about the shadow hunters who are teenage demon killers, basically demon slayers. We follow our main character Clary as she has kind of become immersed into this world, and is finding out that she is also part of this world, part of this demon slaying cult, I guess. It's not really a cult, but and we're just kind of following her adventures as she learns to kind of deal with who she is. She is having a very inappropriate relationship, or she's wanting to have a very inappropriate relationship with her brother who yeah, this is like a main point in the plot, is that this brother and sister want to be together, which is weird. So hopefully in the future we'll have some sort of twist that makes them not brother and sister, because I can't handle it if they really are. But basically, yeah, these books are just going on Clary's adventures as a shadow hunter, learning how to be a shadow hunter and trying to deal with these feelings that she has with her brother, which is really weird. I know I'm not giving you guys the best synopsis of these. Both of these, I think I gave the second one a 3 and the third one a 4. Let me just double check here. Yes, City of Ashes got a 3 and City of Glass got a 4. So they're just kind of, so far they've been kind of run-of-the-mill, like meh, they've been okay. They are YA fantasy. They're all right. They're nothing. These books have been so popular that I thought I was going to really, really enjoy them. But I will say the one thing that I find is that our main character, Clary, is extremely immature. And I mean, maybe I do read a lot of YA, and I don't typically find that I feel that way about the characters. But this is definitely an immature character. And I find that she just annoys me a lot of the time. So that might be why I have to usually really connect with the main character that I'm reading from in order for me to really like the book. I don't know why, it's just the way that I am, and I'm having a really hard time connecting to her, so that might be why I'm not loving the books, but I'm not disliking them either. They're just meh. So the next book that I listened to, I have also talked about here already, and that is The Reunion by Gilia Musso, and this basically follows a cast of characters, a group of friends that ends up coming back to their college for a college reunion. They end up coming back because they are invited by their school to kind of have a last goodbye to part of their school that is going to be torn down and rebuilt, and that is the gymnasium. And the friends decide that they have to come back because once this gymnasium gets torn down, there's gonna be a body found because they put it there. So they have killed someone and buried them in these walls in this gymnasium, and now this gymnasium is going to be torn down and the body is going to be found. So these friends come back together to figure out what the heck they're going to do and how they're going to move on from here. Also, so that is the one mystery. So we're trying to figure out what happened this night, what happened, who did these friends kill, why, etc. But then there's also another mystery that is going on, and that is during their time at this school, there is a young girl who attended this school who had rumors of having an inappropriate relationship with her professor, and both of them had disappeared. So it's assumed that they have run off together, but they've never been found since. So that's also another mystery, is trying to figure out what happened to this young girl. Did she really run off with her professor? Are they the bodies that are being buried beneath this gym? Like, what is going on? I really, really enjoyed this, and I gave it a 4 out of 5. So the next book that I read is from Taylor Jenkins Reid, which is an author that I automatically pick up no matter what. I absolutely loved Daisy Jones and the Six, The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. Those two are probably my 2 favorite books of hers, but ever since reading those 2, she is now an author that I automatically pick up no matter what. And I say no matter what because when I first read the synopsis for this book, Harry Soto is back, I was really unsure about it. It does not sound like something that is up my alley whatsoever. But I just picked it up because I know that I love Taylor's writing. I love all of her books. And I just knew I had to give it a chance, and I'm so glad that I did. I enjoyed it so much. I gave it a 4 out of 5. But basically we follow our main character, whose name is Carrie Soto, and she is a world famous tennis player. And she has been raised since the age of like 3 years old by her father, who was a tennis instructor, and he instructed her and took her all the way from being a little girl with a bat barely being able to fit into her hand to being the greatest tennis player on the face of the earth. So she ends up retiring fairly early on in her career due to a knee injury. And the book starts with us. She's sitting with her father there watching, I think it's in Wimbledon or something like that, and her record gets beaten. And this is just, once you get to know Carrie, she is the type of person that has to be the best. She has to be the best tennis player. Nothing else on the face of the earth matters more than being the best tennis player in the world. So for somebody to beat her record is absolutely unacceptable. She can't handle it. And she decides to come out of retirement in order to try to reclaim her status as the best. And so we follow her going along with this, and a huge character transformation ends up taking place. This story is just, it's so good, you guys. It made me laugh, it made me cry, and I just enjoyed it so much. I love Taylor's writing. I always love her writing. She, in my opinion, is one of the greatest authors of our time. Like, she is just such an amazing author, and I love the way that she tells stories, and she can make anything interesting. Like, I would never be interested in reading a story about a tennis player, but she made me interested in it. So I definitely highly recommend this book. It's set in the 90s, so it is a historical fiction, and so we get a lot of like 90s culture thrown in there as well. And you know, me being a 90s baby, I was born in 87, so I grew up in the 90s, so I really also enjoyed having just little pockets of 90s pop culture thrown in there as well. Yeah, so I really enjoyed this one. 4 out of 5. Honestly, 4.5 out of 5 if Goodreads would let me. So the next book that I listened to is The House We Grew Up In by Lisa Jewell. And I sometimes get into the rut of thinking that Lisa Jewell writes only thrillers. And so whenever I pick up a book of hers, I expect it to be a thriller, because she does write a lot of thriller. This one is definitely not a thriller, but it was really, really intriguing all the same. I gave it a 4 out of 5, and this is more of like a heartbreaking story more than anything else, really. It's about a family who, the center of their world, their mother has a hoarding addiction. And we see this, like, the story starts off when the kids are small. One of the main things that it talks about is Easters, and how their mother loved Easters and loved doing the Easter egg hunt for the kids. And it goes through as they grow up and get older, and how, you know, their house was always messy when they were a kid, and their mother had, you know, pockets of clutter everywhere. But it just gets worse and worse and worse as she gets older, and especially as the kids start to move out of the house, it gets worse and worse. And it's just kind of the story about this family and the things that they go through. So there's a lot of heartbreaking things that end up happening to many of the characters in this story. We just follow their lives. There's a lot of inappropriate relationships within this family. There is a lot of just hard things to go through, and we just are on this journey with them as they, you know, just live their life, and we're finding out about everything that they're going through. So there's, you know, relationships where there is marriages that are breaking apart. There is affairs that are happening. There is somewhat incestual relationships, not necessarily incest, but incest-ish, I guess, without giving it away. Like, it's not necessarily relationships that are banned or that are like really horrific, but still relationships that make you go like, ew, really? That sort of thing. I don't want to give it away, and hopefully you guys can can kind of like just infer what I'm saying. But yeah, this was a really good book. It was sad in a lot of ways. The ending was happy as it could be. It was a good ending. It wrapped things up very well. And it was just a sad story about a family that has gone through hard times, and a mother who never was able to get the help that she needed. The next book that we're going to talk about is The Night Shift by Alex Finlay, and this is a 90s / early 2000s pop culture-ish thriller. It involves basically in the 90s there was a horrible murder at a Blockbuster. Basically the Blockbuster, all the employees ended up getting murdered, except there was one final girl left. And then a few years later there's almost seemingly a copycat murder at another business in town at a local ice cream shop. And so basically there is 2 final girls left. The first final girl, the survivor of the Blockbuster killings, she ends up becoming a psychologist, and she is trying to counsel the survivor of the ice cream shop murders. And as she is trying to counsel her, she's realizing that there is a lot of similarities in between these murders, and she kind of sets herself on the path of trying to figure out what happened and if this is a serial murderer or who this is. She's kind of trying to solve the crime, and it's twisty, it's turning, there's good twists, there's 90s pop culture, there's 2000s pop culture, and I am always up for that. So that one got a 4 out of 5 as well for me. The next book that I read is by Gillian Flynn, and that is Sharp Objects. This one had a really good twist at the end as well that I didn't see coming. Basically, our main character is a reporter, and she is sent back to her hometown to report on some murders that are happening there. It's a small town. We get introduced to her mother, who is crazy, we'll just say that, and her younger sister, who she doesn't really have much of a relationship with. She doesn't really know very well, and so she is trying to get to know her family after so many years being away, and she's realizing that there's some weird things going on with her mother. She's trying to find out more about what's going on with these murders. It's a murder of a young girl, and there seems to be a lot of murders of young girls in this town, and she's realizing that there's some sort of serial killer on the loose, and she's kind of finding out maybe who this could possibly be. This was a very popular book. It was made into an HBO series starring Amy Adams. So this is a popular one for good reason. It's a good thriller, and it had an unexpected twist, and I gave it a 4 out of 5. Just realized I read another book in the Mortal Instruments series, and that is book 4, The City of Fallen Angels. So yeah, not a lot more to say on that. It's book 4 in this series. I read it, I gave it a 3. So I had the book number 3 was a 4-star rating, and then it went back to the 3-star ratings. So next is a book that I have been late to read. It has been one that has been everywhere, absolutely everywhere for a long time, and I was late to the game, and that is The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas. I gave this one a 4 out of 5. There's not much more I can even say about this book that you probably already haven't heard. This is one of the most important reads of our current time. This is a book that's going to go down in history as being an extremely important read. Especially after the death of George Floyd a couple of years ago. This just basically is almost a mirror image of that sort of situation happening. So we have our main character, Star, who is, she kind of navigates between 2 worlds. She kind of lives in the ghetto with her family. Her dad owns a local grocery store in the area. Her mom is a nurse at the hospital. They do all right for themselves. And she goes to school in a predominantly white neighborhood, at a really good kind of prep school. And she kind of has these 2 lives that she's living. So she has, you know, this one life at this prep school where she fits in really well, and she just lives her life, and then this other area of her life where she doesn't really fit in so much anymore. But one evening she is dragged to a party with her friend, and she ends up getting a ride home with her former best friend, Khalil. And while they are driving, they are pulled over by a white police officer, and through some serious misguided actions, Khalil is shot and killed. So this book deals with the fallout of that. It talks so much about racism, you know, basically just everything that happened with the death of George Floyd in real life, how there was riots and everything like that, and protests. That also goes on in this book, and it is so important. It is such an important book. If you haven't read it, it is really important that you read it. I'll just say that. It got a 4 out of 5 for me, would be a 4.5 out of 5. So the last two books that we're going to talk about for this month is from Maureen Johnson, and that is the Truly Devious series. So I've started this series. I have so far gotten through book 1 and book 2. So book 1 is Truly Devious, book 2 is The Vanishing Stare, and I'm currently listening to book 3 right now, which I am expecting to be finished tonight, but I've not done it in time to include it in the wrap up. So basically this story is about a really, really fancy school where brilliant minds go to have their high school education. And our main character, Stevie, is extremely interested in this case that happened at this school years and years ago. So this story is a little bit complicated, so I'm going to read the synopsis for this because it's complicated. We're dealing with several things at once, and I just really don't know how to get the words out of my mouth. So I'm just going to read the synopsis, and that says, Ellingham Academy is a famous private school in Vermont for the brightest thinkers, inventors, and artists. It was founded by Albert Ellingham, an early 20th century tycoon who wanted to make a wonderful place full of riddles, twisting pathways, and gardens. A place, he said, where learning is a game. Shortly after the school opened, his wife and daughter were kidnapped. The only real clue was a mocking riddle listing methods of murder, signed from the frightening pseudonym Truly Devious. It became one of the greatest unsolved crimes of American history. True crime aficionado Stevie Bell is set to begin her first year at Ellingham Academy, and she has an ambitious plan. She will solve this cold case. That is, she will solve the case when she gets a grip on her demanding new school life and her housemates, the inventor, the novelist, the actor, the artist, and the jokester. But something truly strange is happening. Truly Devious makes a surprise return, and death revisits Ellingham Academy. The past has crawled out of its grave. Someone has gotten away with murder. The two interwoven mysteries of this first book in the Truly Devious series dovetail brilliantly, and Stevie Bell will continue her relentless quest for the murderers in books 2 and 3. So it's going really, really well so far. I really like how this is a mystery that is woven between the 4 books. I like it when a story doesn't end. You know how in a lot of series it'll be a complete story and then a complete story and then a complete story. No, this goes all the way up throughout 4 books, and I feel like it's really hard to do that as an author. You have to really have things planned out in what you're going to plot for each book. So I really commend Maureen Johnson for being able to do that brilliantly. I am so far really enjoying the series. Both books have gotten a 4 out of 5 from me. It is keeping me on the edge of my toes. I have no idea what's going on. I have no idea who the killers are, what's happening. Normally I can predict things in a mystery. I can't with this. And it also has, it's told between 2 separate, it's told from Stevie's point of view in the current day, but you also find out as she's finding things out, you are listening to what actually happened back in the day, in the 1800s. So it's really interesting that the 2 kind of parallel time are going on the same. You're finding things out at the same time. So yeah, I really, really enjoyed it. And I'm looking forward to finishing the series. All right, guys, so those are the books that I read in October. Make sure you let me know in the comments down below what you ended up reading this month and what your favorite picks are that you think I should read as well. I hope you guys are having a wonderful day, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!